What is poppin', everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet another edition. I don't even know what episode this is of What's Your Story? And today I'm featuring Drew Mack. This is take like 2 or 3 because I lost his first interview. But fortunately for me, he's like me and he goes with the flow. So I've known Drew for quite a while. He was a co host. We had a show together. He and I mastermind and collaborate on Mondays occasionally, and he's just a genuine soul. He created an energy activation table, which I'll let him share with you guys more about, and is very passionate about plant medicine, helping people elevate their vibration, and higher their states of consciousness. So Drew, thanks for being here yet again, and I won't lose this recording, I promise.
Thanks, Carrie. I would appreciate that.
Hey,
You know,
you know.
it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's fun just chatting anyway. So,
I was gonna say it's always a party, so it's not like you're boring. And I mean, if I'm boring, well, unfortunately, you're stuck with me for the next 50 minutes. So, okay, energy activation table, right? That's like for people. But before we get into that, how is it that you came into being somebody who helps people raise their energetic frequency?
whoa, that's
Not
a
a
really
loaded
good
question at
question.
all, huh?
So, it's funny. You and I very similar in a lot of respects. We have a pretty scientific background from a mind perspective, right? So
Yeah.
we're all about science back when we were younger and blah 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 blah. I was a big biology guy, loved biology. And somewhere along the line, when I went down the entrepreneurial road, I learned something about neuro linguistic programming, which is also a science based thing. Um, and that led me to understanding and studying a little bit about quantum physics, which is also a science thing.
Love
And
quantum.
yeah, I mean, so somewhere in, I don't know, mid 2000s, I was an entrepreneur. I was studying people like Tony Robbins, so positive thinking, and Dennis Waitley and all these teachers. I was studying Deepak Chopra, all sorts of different things. I was obviously sort of going down the spiritual path in a way without really realizing it because Wayne Dyer popped up and then Eckhart Tolle popped up. Um, and so that kind of led me in that direction a little bit. But it wasn't until somebody taught me how to meditate, and it was a response to a question really because I was doing self evaluation somewhere in the mid 2000s, like I don't know 2006, whatever it was, and I was thinking to myself, I got stuff over here that I'm pretty happy with. This is all going pretty good, but I got stuff over here I'm not so happy with. And I thought, I'm missing something. I'm missing a piece to the puzzle. So what am I missing? And sure enough, I attracted somebody that taught me how to meditate. I'd never meditated before. That was really airy, fairy, woo stuff to me back in those days, right? So,
Even though you
and
studied under Deepak Chopra and stuff, like
yeah, but it was more from like I was studying the quantum physics from time,
yeah,
space, reality kind of
yeah.
thing, right? It wasn't really about our bodies and our minds and how our physiology works and all that kind of stuff. So it just however it worked out, it worked out. It worked out. And what I didn't realize is that this guy taught me the basics of the Silva mind method, which
Jose
is an
Silva.
active, yeah, which is an active meditation that he was walking me through. And it's not like I did it all the time back then, but I noticed that whenever I did follow his guided, active, it was meditation. Um, I felt better. Like, the days would go better, whatever. And I started just getting more attracted to that. And somewhere along the line, whatever that was, I put two and two together and realized, hey, you know what? There's some stuff I could use from neurolinguistic programming to enhance what this guy was teaching me from being able to manage my emotional energy, which is
Yeah.
really what I was shooting for, right? So I started doing adding some techniques that from neurolinguistic programming, like visualization and anchoring, and some things like that that I was just doing again, just doing for myself, just playing with it. And then somewhere along the line, I really started going down the road because I found somebody that taught me about energy work, and it started clicking. And for whatever reason, and I attracted around that time being a Lyft driver. And I was just playing with this energy stuff. I also attracted going to a law of attraction group, so I'm starting to understand law of attraction now. And there was a facilitator at that group, and he came to me and he said, Drew, I've been teaching all of this stuff for a decade, and I've never seen anybody grow into it as fast as you have. What are you doing? So I told him that I'd, borrowed these techniques from over here and over there and just started putting them together. And I was just having fun with it for myself, trying to manage my own emotional energy and, starting to understand about energy work and da 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 da. And he said, wow, that's interesting. When you get ready to teach that, let us know because I think a lot of people could benefit from it. And I just laughed at him. I said, Kevin, there's no way I'm going to be teaching any of this, right? Because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not going down airy fairy woo woo land. Are you kidding me? I'm not going to tell anybody about what I'm doing except for this group.
Yeah. It's so funny how our ego kicks in and tries to tell
Yeah,
us what we ain't gonna do, and we still do it.
yeah. I mean, it was really funny. And then I just started noticing all of these things that were happening with the people that would get in my car that were so synergistic, and how by keeping your energy level high, you could have a positive influence on people within your vicinity coming out of nowhere. And then I read this book because I really didn't know what I was doing. But when I read this book, Stealing Fire, a light went on and I realized, boom, what I'm doing is I'm teaching myself how to activate a flow state. So I'm using my thoughts to get myself into a higher state. And the scientists call, the definition from the Flow State Genome Project is a state of consciousness where we feel our best and perform our best. And all aspects of performance, both mental and physical, go through the roof. And that's when the light went off. And I went, wow, okay, I'm teaching myself how to use my thoughts to
Yep.
activate a flow state. That's incredible. And then when you go through all the science, I mean, they know when you're there, right? So let's talk science for a second. This is all documented. 7 decades of research. I mean, they know when you're there by measuring your brain waves. They know what's going on from a physiological standpoint in terms of neurotransmitters being activated in your system and how it makes you feel good. They're high performance, peak performance neurotransmitters. So when that science kind of put everything together, I thought maybe I should be teaching this. And that's how we got to where we are. I mean, it's a whole, another road because I'm not a tech guy or anything like that. So it took quite a while for that to unfold. But yeah, that's where I start. It's with teaching people. I had a podcast. I was on a podcast yesterday, actually. Yeah, with a gal that I don't know, she has whatever 50,000 clients, whatever, and we were talking about what the process that walk people through, and she goes, you know, you're teaching people how to think. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of am, because what are most people taught? What to think. And what I'm teaching people is how to think, how
Yeah.
to use their thoughts to get in a higher elevated state of consciousness.
Yeah, I love that. And so, but just a little bit more about you before we move on to like you sharing, how you
Sure.
support people is what inspired you to start to get curious about self development in the first place? Is it that you were, wanting to grow in your entrepreneurial
Yeah.
pursuits, or because so often I'm like, I always find it interesting to understand how people got to the place where they were open to learning new insights and information so that then they can cultivate something that works for themselves, which you've clearly done.
Yeah. So I wasn't born an entrepreneur. I wasn't born with an entrepreneurial mindset. I was born, grew up, taught what to think, and get a good job, blah 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 blah. But I was fortunate enough when I was younger that I was a pretty good hockey player when in my younger years. So I was sort of the captain of the team all the time and the leader, whatever. So, or considered a leader, whatever that is. And when I was in high school playing hockey, I had a coach that taught me visualizations. And basically it was go to bed tonight and picture this play unfolding, da 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 da. And as I was doing that, I'd be in a game and boom, it would unfold and I just automatically react to it. Now, of course, I didn't think anything about that until after the fact. But when I started going down the entrepreneurial road, which was a whole nother set of circumstances, I just had a job. I was a bartender. And then somebody said, hey, look at this. And I'm like, oh, that's a different way to look at things. And thought, man, I'd like to do that. And I realized, you know, I didn't want to go through the rest of my life trading my time for dollars.
Yeah.
That just is something I didn't want to do. I wasn't interested in at whatever late 20s
Hmm.
because I could see the writing on the wall. It's like,
You're a slave to making somebody else rich.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly. So then, of course, Tony Robbins was popular back then. So I started studying Tony Robbins, and then that's going to lead down Dennis Waitley, and then all this different
Yeah.
stuff that. So the personal development was because I wanted to get better at being a better version of me, so that I could be an entrepreneur, uh, you know, and not have to worry about working for somebody else all the time. So
Yeah.
that's really what it led down the road. What started me down the road.
Okay, so you're now doing Lyft, which you're kind of an entrepreneur. As I was an Uber driver, so you really are your own boss. You make your own hours, and you're recognizing that in with your ability to stay in joy, right? So for anybody
Mhm.
like altered states of consciousness, flow, or high vibration, really it's just love, joy, curiosity. You're able to make an impact on the people who are in your car. What was the deciding factor to start teaching this stuff? Did you have a pivotal moment, or you just kind of fell into that experience as well?
There was one moment where it was so evident, and it was pretty early on, but that was sort of the catalyst for me going, wow, I better pay attention here because I'd been driving, I think, for about a month and a half. And I had a gal get in my car. I picked her up at the U of M hospital. And it took her almost the 4 minutes, the time limit they have to get to your car, to walk from the door to my car. She was that low in energy. She had a walker. And I knew it was her. I mean, it's like, that's my ride.
Yeah.
And this is before they were telling us how far we were driving, whatever. So I put her walker in my trunk, and I got in and pulled up where we were going, and we were going to Battle Creek, which is I don't know, an hour and 20 minutes from where we were. And a lot of people who are energy sensitive might not consider that ride a lot of fun because she was so low in energy. Like when I got in the car, she was leaning against my back window with her phone to her ear and saying to whoever was on the other end of that line, I'm going to need some help when I get home. So I, on the other hand, thought, cool, let's see what happens. Because when I get out on the highway, if there's not traffic, right, and I'm just cruising, I can put myself in whatever state I want. I can go into, whatever state and activate whatever energies I want and just go. And so I just like sort of a radio tuner in my car. I just ramped up the energy and said, let's see what happens. So I kept watching her, for about 10 or 15 minutes, and I noticed she was sort of sitting up and sitting up and sitting up. I knew I wasn't going to be the first one to say anything, right? Now, we'd introduced ourselves, and that was it. That's all we'd said. And about 30 minutes in or so, we got stuck in traffic. So I'm just stuck in traffic, construction. And all of a sudden, she goes, Drew, what's up with the traffic? And I went, okay. She just gave us the invitation to engage. And I said, I don't know, whatever, construction, whatever her name was. And also see a police officer up there. And then she goes, how long have you been driving for Lyft? And I'm like, oh, really? Okay. So now we can engage. So she's open. She's sitting up straighter. And I knew I wasn't going to talk to her about energy. She was way too far away from me to have that conversation. All I did was start telling funny stories.
Yep.
I got this Lyft story. I got this Lyft story. And then she started telling me funny stories about her life. I learned about vacations with her daughter and her husband. And all we did was laugh for the next 20 minutes, or almost an hour, actually, until we pulled up to her daughter's house, who I'm pretty sure was the person on the other end of that line going, I'm going to need some help when I get home, right? And we pull up, and I go in to get in the trunk. I grab her walker, and she jumped out of that back seat probably faster than she's probably moved in years, grabbed her walker, and literally for her jogged around the front of my car with one hand on her walker going, okay, Drew, thanks for the ride. Have a great day.
Yep.
I started laughing. I couldn't believe it. And I just went, all the way out to the highway. I was laughing. I had tears coming out of my eyes. And we had, at that time, I was going to these law of attraction groups, which I mentioned before. And we were doing potlucks, and we happened to have one coming up that Saturday. And I'm like, I can't wait to share this story. So I got a group of people around, and one of them's the facilitator, and there was 3 other friends that I'd met in this group. And I told them that story. And they go, oh my God, that's incredible. I go, you know me, I just like to share a little uplifting energy everywhere I go. And the facilitator paused for a second. He goes, did you hear what you just said? I said, yeah, you know me, I like to share a little uplifting energy. He goes, Drew, you're an uplift driver.
Which I love. I love that story. You're so true. And as you were saying that, something came to mind. The other day I was sitting across somebody who was like, you should collaborate with energy healers to help with your clients. And and you know me more than most. Like, I'm happy to send people anywhere, right? But you and I are healers in our own right, because just by being ourselves, we help uplift people's energy. We do it differently, but
Mhm.
very much in that same vein of, we don't need to necessarily work some specific process. Our being in flow state is the thing that helps other people step into higher vibrations of energy. I love that. And so fast forward, you have been doing Lyft, and then you get an insight to help people uplift their energy more quickly. Can you share with the audience what that was?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I'm taking that moniker, right? So then I end up making signs and putting them in my car.
I love
And by
that.
now, I've got a website, right? So I've got content on it. I don't have any. I'm just talking about law of attraction, and I'm talking about energy. It's just an educational thing at this point. And those signs led to, I don't know, whatever, a few thousand conversations. But one guy gets in my car, and he goes, sees the sign, and he goes, oh, that's cool. I'm like, what? He goes, you're teaching people about this. I'm like, yeah, that's what I teach. He goes, I'm a website developer, and I put myself through college teaching meditation. Do you mind if I talk to you for a little bit and ask some questions? So he's the one who sort of said, you should be teaching this. I mean, because he was telling me what he did, blah, 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 blah. And so that's sort of what, and I had no idea what to do. Like, originally I was going to join this group that we were with, and we were planning on doing workshops, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, now what? And simultaneously, this website guy gets in my car. So originally, I put something out there that was just basically a guided activation on its own, just me walking through the process. And from there, it just sort of all evolved into, I was thinking to myself, well, I got the insight. I need sounds behind this to get people into these wakey states of alpha, theta, and delta, simultaneously walking them through these emotional activation strategies. And so, it took about a year and a half or so for all of that to unfold, and that's where we are now.
Interesting. What came to mind, and I'm really curious to hear what your lens is you, when you originally was part of this group, the guy was like, "Hey, when you start teaching this, let us know. We'll be interested." And you're like, "I'm not teaching this." And then you had that experience with the woman in the lift. And then you had this experience with the website developer who kind of talked to you about it. Do you think those experiences gave you the permission, like to give yourself permission to teach? And the reason I ask is it ties into us uplifting our energy. We have to give ourselves permission to experience something different, or we're not going to experience anything differently.
Yeah, it wasn't just those.
Yeah.
Those are two that stand out. Like I literally I gave over 14,000 rides.
Yeah.
So I literally have thousands of interconnections of people coming out of nowhere,
Yep.
just through an app and getting in my car and having incredible conversations that when like I had people get in my car more than several times that were just pissed off at the world for whatever reason. It doesn't matter why they were just upset, right?
Yep.
They were more than upset. And by the time they got out of the car, they were like, "Drew, thanks so much for the ride. Boy, was I ever in the right car today." So, you know, when those things happen over and over and over again, you're in the process of expanding your level of consciousness as well and becoming more aware. It's like, okay, that's the universe is
Yep.
telling me something here. I gotta pay attention to
Yep.
this.
Yep. But then again, to the listening audience, Drew eventually said, "I'm going to give myself permission." And it
Yeah.
ties so nicely into the work that he does because, if you're intent on having a bad day, Drew can have all the stuff in the world, but you're still going to have a bad day because ultimately you have to be open to the experience. And that's what I love, why you loved saying that the woman in the car opened up to the experience of connecting with you rather than you trying to engage with her. So, okay, so now you have given yourself permission and you create this. So, your energy activation meditation, which I've done myself, is that where you started? You created that using the neuro linguistic programming and then altering the people's states of minds who use it.
Yeah, well, that's where I started for me.
Yeah.
Because again, this was just for me.
Yep.
Like and nobody was teaching what I was doing, so I had to piece it together. Believe me, I went looking. I was looking because I knew at some point in time, whenever that was, I was like, I want to have consciousness. Like I want to get to the highest level of frequency that I can possibly get to, and not just get there, because there's lots of ways to get there.
Yep.
That's talked about in the book I showed you, Stealing Fire. That whole book is written about, hey, if you operate, so well at these higher states of consciousness, let's figure out how to teach people to get there. That's what that book is all about.
Yeah.
And so they studied all the ways that people get there, and most of it's unsustainable. So, or people don't have access to it, like downhill skiing. Unless you live by a mountain, you really don't have access to it. Surfing, same thing. So
Jumping out of
different
an
things.
airplane. Yeah.
Yeah, all that
Yeah.
stuff, right? What's it called? Kite surfing. A great way to do it, but I don't have access to a kite boat, and so as I was going through that, I'm like, well, wait a minute, you can do it. I've been doing it with my thoughts because I'm activating these high vibration emotional frequencies, and I'm getting my whole body involved in it. And so that's really what sort of flipped the switch. It's like,
Yeah.
this is different than anything anybody's doing, which also can be a challenge because words don't teach it. Like I can talk about this till I'm blue in the face,
Yep.
but unless you have the experience for yourself, you don't know what that is.
Yep.
Now, every adult has been in a flow state. They just didn't know what it was. At some point in time in their life, they were having an experience where they were so engaged in whatever they were doing, whatever it was. Like, I don't care if you're an artist or a musician, whatever. You were so engaged in what you're doing that you lose complete track of time
Yep.
because you're having so much fun. Time just flies right by. You're in a flow state. In fact, by definition, that's what the attributes of a flow state are. They call it stir. So it's selflessness, timelessness, effortlessness, and richness. And so if you've ever been in an experience where, you sort of put your ego out of the way and you're just having a lot of fun where you are right now and you completely lose track of time and just go, wow, that was really an amazing experience. That's a flow state. Everybody's been there at some point in time in their life. They just don't know how to sustain it.
Sustain it.
So
Yep.
getting there is pretty easy in a lot of ways if you just keep doing what you love to do. But learning how to sustain it, that's the key. That was the key for me. And I'm like, that's what I'm doing. I'm teaching people to learn how to sustain it. And again, it's been a challenge because nobody else is doing it. So that's why you helped me. Thank you very much. And you put together a little 5-minute free sample of that system.
Yeah.
It's the grounding part with the sounds in the background. And so you can just, get an experience for yourself, 5 minutes. Do that for a week, every day, every morning before you go out. And you will be a different person within a week in terms of your energy. You will feel better, blah, 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 blah. Then you can make a decision whether or not you want to buy the system. But yeah, I appreciate your help tremendously because I wouldn't have been able to do that. I'm not a techie.
Listen, we are all each other's miracles, teachers, and students. I'm a huge believer of that, and it was my honor and privilege, truly. So, okay, now share with the listening audience about your flow state activation table because it's quite unique and very cool.
Yeah, so it's everything's energy, and crystals are extraordinarily beneficial for specific crystals for specific people. You want to go by feel. But crystals have an energy. They have an energy that flows all the time. And our bodies can connect with that very easily. You don't need your brain. Right? So your body will just connect with that feel.
Yep.
And we're all flowing energy, and just like the story from how I got the uplift driver picking up the gal at the hospital, our inner being wants, our inner core wants to operate at these high frequencies because that's how you came into this world.
Yep.
You were pure love. That's what you were.
Yeah.
It's why little babies can make grumpy old grandpa go melt and go, oh, I want, I want, I want, I want, because that's the energy they want to be attracted to. That's what they want to feel like.
Yeah.
And somehow I do an activation obviously every morning. Don't leave my room without it. And I get downloads all the time. So I'm tapping into consciousness. And by the way, neuroscience is proving this is happening. So I'm not talking about airy fairy stuff here. So
Well, it's so true. I love that you said that because a lot of people like Carrie, you're too woo for me, and you and I both know because we're the logical people. We need the science. The science proves it, guys. And if you don't believe us, the evidence is out there. You can go find it.
yeah, and by the way, this whole thing in a lot of ways is really about just focusing on activating your pineal gland
Yep.
because that's your connection. And most people have calcified pineal glands. We won't go down that road. But if you can open up that third eye wide open, you'll get downloads. And one day I got this, so it's a perfect example. Come out of my activation, and the message was very clear: build a vortex energy activation table for your trailer. I'm a pedicab driver and I have a trailer behind it. And I just looked up and went, do what? What is that? And so it was so strong. I just sort of thought, okay, well, how do I do that? And I had crystals around in my area. Obviously, I'm an energy guy. So I just started looking around, and it took a few days. I'd come out of my activation, or I'd get an idea, an inspiration, and I just started piecing this table together with crystals and whatever else I had around that might make it look good. Blah 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 blah. And when I got done with it, I just looked at it and went, "Oh my God!" And I'm not a sacred geometry guy. I'm not a numerologist. I'm not any of those things. I don't say I'm a master of any of those things, but I understand them, and I study them a little bit. And I looked at it and went, "Wow, sacred geometry, sacred geometry, sacred geometry,
Yeah.
numerology, numerology, numerology." I said, "Holy crap! I think this thing's powerful."
Yeah.
And sure enough, I put it in my trailer, and the trailer's metal, so it lit up, it activated. That's a conduit. It activated that energy for the whole trailer, and now I've created this environment where people just walk into it and shift their states of consciousness. I've had people get in that trailer where just like the lift, that are just like really upset about whatever, and if they spend 5 minutes in that trailer, they'll just go, "What's up with this trailer?" Or "What's going on? What have you done to me? I don't even remember why I was upset." So
Yep.
I didn't do anything.
It's true. It's just the energy around. And something I think it's important to highlight for the listening audience is it's we are love fundamentally. So it's not like the grumpy grandpa isn't love. It's just that he has been conditioned and bought into habits, behaviors, and belief systems that have, shielded him from experiencing what he exists in naturally, right?
Yeah, 100%. And some of that also has to do with physiology. I mean, if you're operating at lower levels of consciousness, lower states, lower emotional frequencies, whatever, pick them: worry, frustration, overwhelm, jealousy, fear, guilt. If you're operating consistently in those states, you are not at a peak performance level physiologically. Your body just does not function at an optimal level, period. And that's going to have an
So,
influence
so what
on
is
you
that?
physically.
Yeah, well, so yeah, so can you explain to the listening audience? So when people are not in optimal states, what are some, you know, ways in which it will impact them that they might not be aware of, that they may experience all the time anyway, but just exist in thinking this is the way it has to be?
Well, part of that's momentum, right? So energy is, all around us. Energy gets momentum. Um, the momentum point right now is probably around 15 seconds, which means if you think an emotional thought for about 15 seconds, let's just use 15 seconds, you're going to attract another one just like it, whether you want it or not. That's law of attraction. That's the way it works in a nutshell, right? So if you don't catch that, you're going to think another one, and you're going to think another one, you're going to think another one, and you're going to think another one, just four in a row, and you got a lot of momentum rolling down a track that's pretty hard to stop. Which is why people say things like, you know, uh, I'm aware of the fact that I could catch my thoughts, but it's really hard. It's like, yeah, it is, because you're building momentum that way. You start out the day that way. My point is, perspective is, I'm setting my tuner before I walk out the door.
Facts.
I'm I'm getting my momentum going down the road of love and appreciation, clarity, focus, all these high vibrational emotional frequencies, and I'll let momentum keep going there. So there's, like, for example, anytime I go to eat something, it doesn't matter what I'm eating. the first thing I do is thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate this.
Yep.
Then I just keep bringing in more appreciation. Whenever something happens that I know is positive, or that's something I wanted, whatever it is, ooh, that person's in my trailer now, whatever it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate that, and I mean it.
I love that because in all of this, the spiritual scripture I've read, and I've read a lot, they say if the only prayer you ever say is thank you, it's enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And now we're talking about energy and appreciation too. A lot of people say, be grateful. Okay, it's better than not being grateful from an energy perspective, but think about it from, see, words have energy. Words have, particularly for us in our brains and how we think, because our thoughts are energy, they create energy. So words have energy too. Most of the time when people say things like, man, I'm grateful I have this, is because they're grateful they have this because they used to have this.
Yep.
And just having those two ends of the stick active, because I'm grateful I got this, but I used to have this, pretty much neutralizes grateful, right? I mean, it doesn't always, but there's the potential there for it. So when people say I create a gratitude journal, that's great. Flip it over to appreciation and have an appreciation journal. Why? There's no other end of the stick. I appreciate that. It's not because there's no other end of that stick. Number one. Number two, think about the meaning of the word. What does appreciate mean? It means it adds value to. It appreciates.
Yeah.
It grows. It expands. So just a little tip.
And so when people are in lower states of energy, right, they're more inclined to have physical illnesses, certainly mental health
Mhm.
issues. They're more inclined to struggle with addiction and compulsive behaviors. So a lot of what you're teaching is helping people move out of experiences that keep them from experiencing illness, mind, body, and spirit, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been proven, you can heal yourself with your thoughts.
It's so true. All the time.
And, that's epigenetics.
Yep.
Dr. Bruce Lipton. Again, science.
Yep.
One of the things that's just to share, I created a little thing where I use with a pendulum, but for people who aren't familiar, this is the Hawkins map of consciousness. And it basically it acts sort of like a thermometer based on emotional energy, where you operate. I'm not going to get too much into detail. My point is this. I've worked with people that start with me operating between 100 and 125 on that map. And as you know, that means they're dealing with a lot of things emotionally. Like
Chronic
they're
stress, illness, addiction, mental health. Yeah.
yeah, lots of stuff that they're dealing with. And most of it is, they have no way of controlling their thoughts. So they start going down that road and boy, they crash hard. The ones that I'm aware of that were there are now operating at least at 700 every day, if not higher. So that means they don't have those issues anymore. So, for example, I have one guy who experienced homelessness. He's a friend. And by the time, right when I created that system, this new system, I didn't create it, it was created through me, whatever. Um, I thought, I've been working with Andrew, but he was aware of all this metaphysical stuff, but he didn't know what to do with it. And so I said, Andrew, I've got this system. I think you should. And he just got a new job with all sorts of new language patterns for him to learn. And he was overwhelmed, to say the least, like big time overwhelmed. So I said, I got this new system. I'll give you a deal on it. I think it'll help you a lot. So he said, yeah, I mean, if it's your system, I'm all in. So after, as the days went on, he's still overwhelmed, but he's getting better and better and better and better. And I'm measuring him on it. on that table without telling him. And one day he came up to me and he said, I got to tell you what happened to me at work. And I'm like, what's up? He goes, well, my pattern, I was at work in my route in the morning. And I thought to myself, I really am not motivated to be here today. He said, I caught it. And he said, wait a minute. I don't have to think that. And I went, nice catch.
Good catch.
Nice catch.
Yep.
And then he said, then I said, asked to myself, what would I feel like if I was motivated to be at work today? Well, I'd feel like this, and 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 I'd feel like this. And he started the momentum going down the road towards higher states of consciousness. And he said, the rest of the day, that was probably one of my best days ever. And he looked at me and he said, I never knew I had that kind of power. And I went, that's it, man. That's your power.
Yep.
Which is what that's why my site's called You Are Powerful Beyond Measure.
Because we are. People have, oh man. I mean, you and I both know that we are so powerful. And again, it just goes to finding the way that helps you experience that power and then giving yourself permission to do the work. Because you would say this gentleman had to do the work. He had to catch his thought, and then he had to think about other thoughts that made him feel better rather than thoughts that kind of tied into his behavior that, oh, I don't want to be at work today.
Well, you can back up even further. He had to do the work to set the tone for the day.
Yeah.
So he had to go and put his earbuds on and his headset on and listen to the sounds and walk through the process of activating these emotional frequencies. See, that's, as we both, all of us, people are conditioned, right? So they operate around whatever they operate: worry, frustration, overwhelm, fear, blah, blah, blah. They've completely forgotten what love is. They've completely forgotten what it feels like to operate in just unconditional love or appreciation or any of these high vibration emotional frequencies. So what this process is doing is helping you re-experience what that feels like, and
Yeah.
with the processes that I'm walking you through. So you're going to experience it again, like, oh yeah, that's what that feels like. Now what happens is, over time, and it takes practice, you have to do it every day. It's not like I do it every day. You do something every day.
Every
We do
day.
it every
Every
day,
day.
right? And that's the practice. That's the work. Because when you go out in the world, if you've got that reference point that you've now remembered, you can catch it. You built your awareness muscle and you go, wait a minute, I don't have to think that. I used to have to think that because the momentum was so strong, but now I don't.
Yep.
And that's the key.
Yeah.
That's the key to the whole system.
I love that so much. Okay, so yes, and I think I always just like to highlight for the listening audience that whether you get in touch with Drew and work with him on his activation system and or plant medicine, which we're about to touch upon, or you work with somebody else, you know, whatever it is that you find that feels right for you, go for it. But it's gonna be work. But so kind of giving you an opportunity, another one of your passions, something that you're hyper focused on right now is plant medicine as a medium to help people I don't know, not alter their state of consciousness, but raise their energy and vibration as well. So can you talk to me about how you stumbled upon the benefits of plant medicine, what it is, and then why you're so passionately advocating for it.
Sure. So, first of all, it's not psychedelic. Let's get that out of the way first. I'm not talking about psychedelics here. I've had a passion about nutrition for a long time. Back in the 90s, I was involved with a nutritional company that we did some really good work. And because of what we brought to the table, we attracted a lot of alternative healthcare professionals, chiropractors, and etc. Energy healers, actually, which I was not aware of at the time, was as powerful as it is. Anyway, because of that experience, I learned a lot about nutrition because my position within that company was teaching these professionals, these healthcare professionals, how to use our product to make money.
Yep.
Right. So they liked me.
Yeah, I bet they did.
Um, so I learned a lot about nutrition, and I've always sort of been around that ever since because it was like, okay, well, all of this makes sense. You need to provide your body with the proper nutrition. And then around the age of 50, I went to give, no, sorry, around the age of 50, I got a checkup, and all of a sudden I got the news from my doctor that I was, a blood pressure medication candidate. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, I've been eating pretty clean. What's going on? So I learned more about nutrition because then I started working with a retired cardiovascular surgeon, and I learned about sugar and got I'm
Yeah.
not going to go into detail on that, but so I've always sort of been around it. And then I was driving for Lyft, whenever that was. It was probably about 5 years ago now. And I realized I'm starting to get arthritis symptoms in my hand and I'm getting in my elbow. I've always sort of had a bad back. I used to have to wear a back brace all the time. I just thought that was normal for somebody my age. And it was getting worse. But the big thing for me was all of a sudden, both my knees used to hurt. I thought that was, just arthritis. But my right knee started getting so loose that I thought I was going to be basically have to have a knee replacement surgery at some point in time. And fortunately enough, the nutritional company that I was buying, I wasn't doing anything, but I was just buying products from this company, introduced me to a couple that are incredible plant medicine formulators I'd never heard of before. But they taught me about enzymes and the importance of enzymes. I'd never understood that before. So I started utilizing digestive enzymes. The other thing that was happening was, like most people as they get older, man, I can't eat anything like I used to eat, so without getting bloated and feeling
Loaded.
gassy
Yep.
and feeling like you just ate a bowling ball and you got to take a nap. You're
Yep.
supposed to get energy from your food. And that's
And
what
you
was
still would
happening to
be
me.
tired. Yeah.
Yeah. So they introduced me to these digestive enzymes. I'm like, well, I'm trying that. And sure enough, within, I don't know, whatever it was a while ago, a week to whatever it was, I'm not getting tired after I eat. I'm not popping tums after I eat all the time. So I was like, yeah, this is really interesting. Then they introduced me to proteolytic enzymes and a whole flower, water soluble CBD. And at that time, unlike you, because I know you have a background in CBD, I knew nothing about CBD. I just thought that was a marketing thing, made up by
Yeah.
people to promote marijuana. I had
Yep.
no idea.
Yeah.
So I studied. I went in projectcbd.org, and I just studied, what is this? And I realized endocannabinoid system. Okay, interesting, because I knew it was coming out. So when it came out, I started using those two, proteolytic enzymes and the CBD as directed. And within 5 months, I was symptom free. 5 months, I had no more symptoms. And I went, okay. Do you know how many people I know that are in this boat? And so that started me down the road. And about 2 years ago, the couple that I was introduced to had a falling out with the company, blah, 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 blah. And they decided to go out on their own. And since that time, they are high vibe people, big time high vibe people. Like people would say, oh, they're hippies. Well, yeah, they are, sort of, except they're really, really smart on plant medicines.
Yeah.
And they started developing other products to enhance. So basically, it goes back to the definition of the flow state, a state of consciousness where we feel our best and perform our best. If we don't feel good, it's hard to get in and sustain a flow state.
Yep.
It just is. It's really difficult because if you're walking around and you're limping or whatever, if you're in pain, physical pain of some sort, or you just don't feel, you don't have the energy because whatever, it's hard to sustain those states. So they, without knowing what I did, I mean, they knew who I was and they know who I am and blah, 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 blah. But as I was watching what they were developing, I'm like, you know what they're doing? They're helping people get, so first of all, start with gut health.
Yo,
Take
yeah.
care of your gut, right? And they've been teaching about gut health for 25 years. So it's way farther back than it was even popular.
Yep.
So it starts with your gut. Take care of your gut. A lot of things will follow that. Then take care of the other aspects, whatever those are. For me, it's what I love about it is their fluids, which are bioavailable above and beyond what anything anybody offers because it's water soluble and it's a patented extract. It's a cold extract, blah, blah, blah. I won't get into all the detail. But you take things like lion's mane and blue lotus and combine those with a healthy gut and a body that is symptom free of things like arthritis, pain, etc. Man, it's a lot easier to sustain a flow state. It just flat out is.
Yeah. Well, it's so true. I mean, when you're struggling with physical ailments, it's harder to maintain a positive energy because we are focused on our body and the way it performs for us, for sure, 100%. And
Yeah,
so,
when you're struggling to wake up, just struggling to
yeah,
move, get out of bed, it's hard to go, oh, I'm thinking so positive today. Right? I mean,
yeah,
I don't mean to laugh about it, but it is. I've been there, so I
yeah,
know.
it's true. It's absolutely 100% true. But I think the gift that you gave yourself is you were willing to be open-minded and curious rather than closing down the door because it was something foreign to you. And that to me is so important, why I do our shows, all the things we do, is to open people's minds to the possibility of experiencing life free from pain. I remember you sharing a story about doing a pedicab, and you thought you were going to be super sore. And
Mhm.
do you want to share that story so people can get a better idea of what these plant medicines can do for them?
Sure, 100%. I mean, I work at the campus at the University of Michigan. So football Saturdays are a big thing for us. And the pedicab, if you don't know what it is basically a rickshaw, which I pedal around. It's an electrified rickshaw. It's pedal assist. So if I've got the trailer full, I've got to pedal, which means, and there's a lot of upper body stuff involved in it as well. So every February, January or February, the students do something called um, Winterfest, and it's a big fundraiser for the frats and sororities. So there's people moving up frat and sorority row all day long on a Saturday. They start at whatever it is, 7 in the morning or whatever it is, and they're done around 5, and then they go crash out, and then they go back up and have a party at night. So for us, it's a 20+ hour day, and that day is unlike football. That day is just nonstop, up and down this road, just nonstop, full trailer. And by the time all of us got done, we were just exhausted, all of us. And I got home and I just thought to myself, okay, I don't care what kind of plant medicines I've been taking.
I won't be
I
walking
can, yeah,
tomorrow.
I can hardly move. Like I could hardly walk into the door because I got all this, clothing I'm trying to carry, and I made like 3 trips because I couldn't carry it all. And I just said, that's okay. It was a lot of fun. It was great. And you just take our time tomorrow morning when we get up and, you know, move slow. Don't worry about it. We're not doing anything tomorrow. So I got up and I went to stand up, going slow. And I just stood up and went, I got nothing. Like, I'm fine. Now I got 8 hours of sleep. Don't get me wrong. I slept like a baby, but I had nothing. Like, there was no pain. I couldn't believe it. Just like, I texted my buddies who are all 20 years younger than me or more. Said, how you guys feeling today? Oh God, I can hardly move. Yeah, that's what I thought I would be like, but I'm good. And they're like, you're so
What are
lucky. I'm like,
you doing?
yeah, you're so lucky. I'm like, it had nothing to do with luck, guys.
It's choice. It's choice. It's the choices we make. All right. So with just a couple minutes to go, Obviously, I'll share your contact information in the show notes. With your permission, I'll share the 5 minute flow state as well. What's one thing you want to leave the listening audience with that you feel you've come to understand that's helped you experience life more joyfully and in a higher state of consciousness or joy?
So before I answer that, I put the 5 minute free sample on my
Yep.
site.
Sweet. So you just
So
go to the
just
site,
share,
guys.
yeah, just share that link. I'll send you the link, the direct link to the page that has it on it. So
Perfect.
you don't have to worry about doing that. And then, what was the last question? Just nutshell.
One thing that you want to share with the audience that you think might benefit somebody that has helped you experience more joy in your life?
So if any of this has resonated with you, go look. Do what I did, right? Just go look somewhere. Start somewhere. It's like when I had that question, what am I missing? I got an answer. So ask a question. What am I missing? What what are these guys talking about? Go do some research. Don't let us tell you what to think, how to think, or what to think, rather. Go look. Look up law of attraction, look up energy, look up quantum physics, look up anything that you think could help you down this direction. Obviously, we both have websites that could inform you. Like we both put content out there that can help you understand what this is all about and point you, maybe something else gets your attention. Whatever, just start somewhere, please.
Yeah.
Because there is more to this than just waking up, going to work, bat, 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 bat. There's collaboration, there's working with other people. When you put people in rooms together that are high vibing, man, solutions identify themselves. We're not problem solvers. We're solution identifiers. So many people banging their head against the wall trying to solve a problem. Let the solution come because that's what we do. I
Co-create
guess
the
that's,
universe.
yeah,
Co-create
co-creative.
with the
A
universe.
100%. Yeah, co-create. I mean, I have four main intentions every day, and I just put those out there. And if I figure everything will take care of itself as long as you go, so just keep these four intentions, right? So yeah, go co-create. That's where the fun is, and we call it work, and don't get me wrong, it is work to the extent of it takes a commitment to want to do these things, to want to experience them. But once they start happening over and over and over again, and you start feeling better. And with the plant medicines, it's just a faster way to get there. Um, Not to mention the fact that it helps your longevity, right? So uh, it's fun. It's not work. I don't think you and I actually work the way most
You
people
and I
think
have
of
also
work.
trained our brain to make the choice to do the thing. So in the beginning, here's the thing: change behaviors work, guys. Like it just
Yeah,
is.
sure.
Like you have to make a conscious effort. But eventually, to Drew's point, Drew doesn't wake up and think, "Oh, what am I going to do this morning?" Drew wakes up and energy activating. Right, because it's a new habit. It's like driving the car. He just knows to do it. So the work is just giving yourself permission to go through the messy middle of rewiring your behaviors so
Mhm.
that way you naturally activate into higher states of being. So
Yeah.
this has been such a joy and a gift, guys. If you enjoyed any or all of this conversation, please share it with your friends, family, anybody, and definitely reach out to Drew to have a conversation to learn more about his flow state activation, his table, or any of the plant medicines that he was talking about. I personally use the digestive enzymes and am looking to get beetroot extract for the mitochondria. So I highly recommend a conversation, Drew. This is always a gift. It's always so much fun to be in your space with you. So thank you for your time and attention today.
Well, thank you, Carrie. It's always a blast.
Yeah, we do have